Hey there, everybody. My name is Ren Jones, and I'm here with my good friends, Jonathan Goodman and Carolina. And, you guys, what really chaps my hide? Because I frequently use the term chap my hide. It's absolutely natural and no way for the purpose of this podcast to try to sound funny. You know what really chaps my hide? Causes the chappage. Ads that advertise something being new and improved. And Jonathan, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'll tell you where I'm going with this. I saw an advertisement last night. I don't know if I should say the name of the place, but it's a pizza company, and it rhymes with Romano's. I hope that didn't give it away.
That's too obvious. That's too obvious.
Is it? All right. Are we good?
Ominos.
Ominos. We're gonna get a litigation letter after this podcast. and
nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening. And the context of the Ominos commercial was that due to the situations, involving the pandemic, COVID-19, everybody's, we're very virus aware now. They have a new process by which after your pizza comes out of the oven, there's a contactless process so that no one touches it before it goes in the box. And it got me head scratching because I'm thinking, before the coronavirus, how much contact were they having with my pizza after they took it out of the oven and before they put it in the box? Like, were they playing Frisbee with my pizza before this happened? Were people taking slices, testing them out, weighing them individually? Like, why would you need to improve your pizza process for coronavirus by promising the consumer that after it comes out of the oven, nobody touches it before it goes in the box? I don't get that. You know who does have a contactless process?
Who?
PT Distinction. PT Distinction.
PT Distinction?
You don't have to touch anything.
Wow.
These guys have mastered the online training space. You can literally, as a client, be in one place, one part of the country. This is going to blow your mind. And the coach can be in a total another part of the planet, and you guys can interact. And they never touch your pizza.
They never touch pizza.
They never touch pizza.
You could get a pizza, they could get a pizza.
Yep, right. No fingerprints on the training. No touching the pizza, no touching the client, which is generally a good rule of thumb for coaches out there.
Please don't touch your clients.
Yeah, please don't touch your clients. But Jonathan Goodman, in his brilliance, in his wisdom, in his omnipotence, has worked out some kind of deal where you get 60 days of PT Distinction at no cost, free 99, and all you got to do is go to the site, onlinetrainer.com/PTD, as in PT Distinction. See how we put that together? It's very clever. And not only did, in his infinite wisdom, did Jonathan Goodman, who's a publisher of 11 books, by the way, I don't know if you heard him say that yet on the podcast, but he'll tell us later. Again, not only did he work that out, he worked out a way for you to get 50 free automated text messages to send out to your clients for accountability. That's way better than people touching your pizza. So again, the only thing you've got to do is go over to onlinetrainer.com/PTD. Tell them the Jonathan Goodman, author of 11 books, sent you. And they're going to, and he has one on the computer also, by the way. There's a 12th waiting that he's not sure he's going to write. Anyway, and they're going to give you this great deal, And for all the coaches out there, if you're a coach out there, if you're a trainer, you're a business owner, you're a gym owner, nutrition coach, we've also got something else for you. We can get you over to the onlinetrainer.com/academy. I'm sorry, I butchered that yesterday. By the way, if you watched the last podcast, all the websites were wrong that I gave. Disregard that. onlinetrainer.com/academy. And we're taking in new members for the Online Trainer Academy. You're going to love it. It's the link for you to also be a contactless coach. You're not going to touch pizza either. Hop on over there. Get yourself involved in the OTA, the Online Trainer Academy. We want to teach you the proper way to be a contactless coach, in a COVID environment. So As always, we've got notes to this show for anybody who dares read them. It's got to read like a Stephen King novel at onlinetrainer.com/podcast. So if you're brave enough to read the notes from the show, and if you don't want people touching your pizza, that's the place that you want to go. And
Can we introduce the show yet?
I guess. Go ahead, if you must.
Hey, my name is Jonathan Goodman, and welcome to the Online Trainer Show. Today is episode 2 of season 3. This is a new era of the podcast, one where we actually tell you that it exists. Today's theme is actually quite appropriate. It's resiliency, which you've all experienced a little bit of if you made it through Ren's sponsorship pitches. Resiliency is the theme today. Thanks for being here.
This is the Online Trainer Show, Trainer Show, Trainer Show. This is the Online Trainer Show. We shouldn't have a podcast.
So, welcome to the Online Trainer Show, Training Academy Show. Online, there's something. It's on the logo. Read it for yourself. Read amongst yourselves. It's not important. My name is Ren Jones. I'm here with my good friend, colleague, and sponsor. Not that kind of sponsor. Sponsor of the show. Well, not that kind of sponsor either. Just my good friend, Jonathan Goodman. In the upper left-hand corner of my view, because she's such an angel descending from heaven right upon us, is the awesome and lovely Carolina Belmontes, or as I affectionately know her, Carolina, because that's where I'm from. And
Carolina.
You're from Carolina in my mind.
Carolina.
So we're at another episode, and this is the next season. Previous 2 seasons are invisible. You'll need some type of key code or password to listen to those, but they're out there. Just Google.
You don't. I mean, you're like before this one, but you know.
Yeah. Right. You can scroll back.
You don't need a keyword. I don't even know how to do that.
We don't know how to do any of this, John.
We don't know how to do any of that. We don't know. We are showcasing imperfect. No, the imperfect action was the first episode. I can't even get that right.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Resiliency. That's what we're showcasing.
That was a horrible segue. So it really was. It was terrible. So Jonathan, give us some insight into your world. I read a little bit about some bicycles that you purchased recently. How's the bike life working out for you? Like you're a biker now. You're a biker now.
I did. I put on a helmet and I rode my bike to work. It's been going great. Thank you so much. We bought 2 of them with very little thought, because really at the end of the day, it's very hard to differentiate between bikes. And I think it's important that you don't really pretend that you know what you're talking about most of the time as a consumer. I think that you have to admit when you're an ignorant consumer and be okay with that, and appreciate what you actually care about when you're buying something, and be okay in knowing that most everything else is probably going to be okay. And that's what we did with the bikes, and it worked out pretty well.
That sounds amazing. Let's turn it over to the first lady.
Yes.
Carolina, what's new in your world?
Oh my God. Do you want me to talk about the dead squirrel?
Is there a dead squirrel now? Wasn't there a coyote that
oh God. Yeah. So I don't know why, there's mice in my house. So there's, dead mice is appearing in the traps because they fall for it every time, little suckers. But then I go outside and there's like a dead squirrel on my driveway and I'm like, why? So I'm feeling like maybe my house is like pet cemetery or something. Like, are they going to rise in the night and like kill me in my sleep? I don't know.
Have you cleaned your house ever?
My house, the biggest problem with my house is that the structure is quite old and it's in a very kind of like, I'm on the lake. So there's tons of everything running around here. You're bound to get, and all my neighbors with newer houses, everybody gets all this,
Can you talk to the mayor about doing something?
Here we go.
You had to. Yeah, the mayor should do something about it, shouldn't he?
The mayor should do something. For anybody who doesn't know, Carolina is dating the mayor of her town. So can the mayor do something?
Oh God, yeah.
There's got to be an advantage to being with the mayor.
Like, yeah, you would think, right? I call him and I'm like, I can't get the squirrel. It's too gross. And he's like, just like use a shovel. And I'm like, I don't own a shovel. Like, I'm like, no, come deal. And he's like, I can't come to your house. You know, right now we're in isolation and everything. He's like, I can't come. And I'm like,
the mayor had many diplomatic events happening just before this and lots of very important international travel.
He could have used any number of excuses to not come and deal with a dead squirrel, basically.
But he could have called sanitation on the mayor's behalf.
You know what? Guess what happened? This is the ending of my story with the squirrel. I went to kind of like finally decided today that I'm going to clean up the damn thing, and I step outside and it's gone.
Of course.
Because something came in the night, either a raccoon or a fox or a weasel or a mink or God knows what that lives around here and ate it. And you know what's still there? It's tail. It's tail detached from the body and it's still stuck to the ground. And that's right there for me to look at every single time I want to work out in my garage because it's right at the entrance of my garage.
You're getting your workouts in. That's admirable during this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, very important.
Can you ship that tail to me? Because in the South, that's quality beginnings of a hat.
A delicacy, is it?
Yeah, I can make some good money off a squirrel hat down here in North Carolina. Just, you know, when you get time, or have the mayor bring it on his next diplomatic visit. Does he come to North Carolina? Is that a thing?
Yes.
No?
Yes. Barrie, Canada, and, you know, South Carolina obviously have deep diplomatic connections, right?
Deep ties.
Absolutely.
Deep ties.
Absolutely.
No.
You know, and if you need help with shipping, you know, PT Distinction does the heavy lifting for you and gets you clients even better results. So, John, it seems like you're having an exciting time with your bicycles, and Carolina with her dead animals.
Yes, I'll ship
carcasses.
it to you. Contactless squirrel tail. I'll ship
That's
it to you.
right. That's right.
Yes.
The one thing we know is that the Aminos wouldn't touch that squirrel before they shipped it. They had a contactless shipping. So, Jonathan,
they use tongs.
If I may call you Jonathan, we're talking a little bit about resiliency today. You know, and I try not to know too much about anything or anything about anything really. So it's so much easier that way. So, you know, talk to me a little bit about resiliency. Like, what does that mean in terms of coaching people online? Because I could say that I get it, and I do, but I don't. So I'm not going to say it anyway. Lead us into the resiliency conversation. Like, how does this work? And what do we mean specifically about being resilient in the online and the training space in general, in the fitness industry?
Resiliency means that you accept some fundamental truths about life and business, which is that it is unpredictable, which is that you have absolutely no clue what's going to happen. You couldn't predict what happened previously. And if you pretend to, or if you pretend that you knew what was going to happen, you're either lying or disillusioned. Resiliency, or robustness, as I like to call it, is very much the anti-fragile approach, if anybody's read the work of Nassim Taleb. And what it means is quite simply, the world is far too complex. You are far too small of a player in the world to ever have any clue what's going to happen. Most of the time, it goes as expected. But there are always going to be large, unpredictable events. And depending on what you do, you have to position yourself so that you minimize being hurt and even potentially win when there's unpredictable events that happen. What's particularly interesting about the fitness industry is that the fitness industry has been broken for a lot of years. And everybody knew it. The conventional fitness business model was not a good model. It wasn't good for clients, because for clients, it was very expensive to get, adequate training. They often didn't really optimize what they needed. Like a trainer's job is to give a client is to optimize for a client, right? They often didn't have it optimized because of things like scheduling constraints. for a trainer, and because, you know, the only people that they could work with were like 20 minutes from their home. I mean, basically clients, if you actually look at the stats, just won't travel on average more than 20 minutes from home. I mean, there are exceptions, but for the most part, that's it. So if there doesn't have to be somebody perfect, if there doesn't happen to be somebody perfectly suited for you as a client, less than 20 minutes away, then you're going to get somebody who's not perfectly suited for you, which is a recipe for disaster. For trainers, we all know how bad the business model is, right? You only work when you're making money. You only work when you're on your feet. You have to charge a lot of money, which means you need an affluent clientele over a long period of time. For gym owners, it's not good because their revenue, I mean, their margins aren't good. It's difficult to be a gym owner. You finding qualified trainers and keeping qualified trainers is difficult. Upkeep expenses of gyms are extraordinarily difficult. Insurance is expensive. Like, it's just not a good model for anybody. It was broken. But the problem was, it wasn't quite bad enough for anybody. And this is what these large, unpredictable events, like COVID-19, like this pandemic, which, by the way, we're breaking a rule again with podcasts. It's now May 13th, everybody, that we're recording this. I don't know when you're listening to it.
You're growing it.
But it's May 13th, 2020, and you should never tell anybody what date it is you're recording the podcast, because it's always going to be out of date because it's not live. So it's May 13th.
It's horrible.
The reality of it is, the COVID-19 pandemic has happened, and it broke something that needed to be broken, because everybody was suffering with how bad the model was.
Yep.
I mean, think about it as a trainer. You knew that you had to have another revenue stream when you're not on your feet. You knew that.
It wasn't sustainable, for sure.
It wasn't for anybody. Like, I played ice hockey, again, Canada. Like, I played ice hockey my whole life. I got tripped by some thug one night when I was playing at midnight after training my clients, and I pulled my hamstring, and I was off my feet for 2 weeks, which means I didn't make money. Like, how does anybody think that this career conventionally where you're training people is sustainable? If you can pull a hamstring and not make money for 2 weeks, like, you're going to get, like, nobody knew that it was going to be a pandemic, but, like, you know that at some point in your life, something's going to come up where you're not going to be able to work with clients.
Yep.
And so many trainers were gliding by with this brittle business model, but it wasn't quite bad enough that it made them, excuse my language, shit or get off the pot. I've been telling people that you need to have another source of revenue, and online training is the best one, since 2013. You know what percentage of our email list has ever done any business with us? Like down to buying a $7 book. Like, I'm not talking about even the Online Trainer Academy. Like, less than 1%. Wow. You know, it's just, it's pretty ridiculous when you think about how much people knew what they needed and how little they acted on it. And I have a bunch of theories for why that is, but that's basically what resiliency is, right? Resiliency is understanding that even if things aren't quite bad yet, that you are in a position where you can get taken out. You are in a position where you have a brittle business model, where you have to do something to get in front of it, so that when something happens, nobody knows exactly when, nobody knows exactly what it is, but you know that something's going to happen. You're going to be fine. And that's the most important thing about all of this. So what has COVID-19 done? Like, it's forced trainers to shit or get off the pot. It's going to force a lot of, even if they're good people, it's going to force a lot of good trainers with bad businesses to adapt or get out of the industry. And it's as simple as that. There's going to be a lot of good people that are going to leave the industry. And you know what? They probably should have done that before. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying this, like, there's this like sexification of entrepreneurship and owning your own business. It's like, nah, that's not right for everybody. Like, if you're going to be a successful trainer, you've got to be a bit of an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's a romanticized notion of a glam life, and it's barely ever actually that. It's not. Owning a business is hard, right? And having to drive your own business is hard. But it's absolutely possible.
You've got to figure out how to actually make the business work, though, which means taking another certification in fitness or learning how to teach the squat or learning a little bit more about nutrition. That ain't going to move the needle in your business. Sorry, it's not. You need to be good enough at those things, and then you should absolutely always strive to be better. But you got to match that with business marketing acumen. Yeah. And if you didn't before, you're seriously struggling now because you never built that resiliency in. And now you have the choice. Are you going to build that in? Because if you don't, you probably won't last in this industry. That's resiliency.
Absolutely. So Carol.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Carolina. What are your thoughts here? Like you were, I saw you echoing Jonathan's sentiments here. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts? And I know you recently went through the OTA too. There's a second level of online training academy. Was this sort of a catalyst for you to do that?
It absolutely was. So in my business, I always go through, I've learned to recognize that I go through waves. There's a wave of inspiration, of super hard work, of putting everything in, of grinding every day. And then that slowly, you get tired. Like you can't maintain always the same energy at the same, you can't. So I've learned to ride those waves. So when I was ready to start hitting another wave of like, okay, let's do this, that's when Jonathan was like, hey, we have this thing and it's not open to the public, but we want to kind of like invite you in. And I was like, yes, because it was like the moment that it definitely sounded like what I needed. And sure enough, it was. Now, that being said, as if you recall, like in my experience in DOTA too, is that at some point in the middle of it, I was pretty much taken out of the equation for like a month and a half because I hit like a really bad slump. Like I was hit with, seasonal depression. It was really, really difficult. And you
didn't get to see the mayor because he was quarantined.
And I couldn't see the mayor, and that was really sad.
I know. You had to just watch him on TV doing a presentation to his legion of followers. They're like pawning at the TV.
No.
Distracted by the sheer volume of vermin in our house. That's also makes it difficult to focus. When you got a plague of vermin in your home. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt, Caroline. Please continue your thoughts.
So that was part of my resiliency actually, because when I was going through the really difficult stuff and having seen that out of the 3 months of this that we were supposed to take in the certification, a month and a half, so like half of the time I wasn't able to advance anything at all. Everything in me was like, just give up. What's the point? Start over another time. You mess this up. Like all those things that our clients go through in their fitness journeys. The same thing started happening to me. And then that's when I got to tap into my resiliency and say like, no, it's okay. Like, what would I tell my client? What would I have my client do? It's okay. You pick up where you left off. I got you, and reach out for help. So I reached out to my coaches and just one step at a time, one day at a time. And that's exactly what I did. And I graduated in time. It was wonderful. I've grown my business so much thanks to that. But that's resiliency for me. When you have like a really difficult situation that has all the ingredients to take you out of the equation, and it's so easy to just give up, and you're like, screw that. No, you don't get to do that. Like, no, here I am and here I stay, and this is the way that it goes.
It's never going to be good all the time. Exactly. It's never going to be good 100% of the time. No matter who you are, no matter how good somebody makes it look like on the internet they're doing all the time. Yep. I mean, no matter how good their Instagram feed looks like, it's like, oh, everything's perfect. Look at my Instagram feed. It's like, I was at your house and there are dead rodents everywhere.
But pretty much.
I talk about it very openly. But that's a nice picture
from your vacation last year,
And John makes an interesting point here. Like, we always show the highlights, but people never really articulate the biblical level plagues that are beset into their home through squirrels, vermin, and other things. Like, you just never know what's actually happening in a person's life.
But it's human nature. It's human nature to think about like what we're going through it's human nature to compare all of the negatives we have to all of the positives somebody else has.
Yeah.
It's human nature to compare our blooper reel to other people's highlights.
Yes.
There's this term, it's become one of my favorite words. It's sonder, S-O-N-D-E-R.
Yes.
You can look it up. It's one of the most, if not the most beautiful words, concepts that I've ever come across. And the idea of sonder is the deep recognition that every single person that you meet's life is just as rich and varied and complicated and unique as yours.
I love
Simple
that.
in practice.
Yeah.
Everybody will agree with me that that's obviously the case.
Yeah.
But holy crap, that's hard.
Very profound.
It is hard to think about that. Whenever you meet anybody on the street, we had a bad experience with the person we bought bikes from. He was a jerk.
Oh.
He was a complete jerk. And he gave us terrible customer service.
Oh.
Awful. Like laughable. To the point where my wife actually said to him on the phone, she's like, this is a really bad experience I'm having. And it doesn't seem like there's any reason for it to be like that bad. Like, I don't think either of us have ever said that to anybody.
Wow.
But at the same time, who knows what's going on in this guy's life?
Yeah, that's true.
Who knows what it is? Who knows what his business is like right now? Who knows how much stress he's under right now?
Who knows how many dead squirrels are in his garage right now?
Whatever it is, right?
That's so beautiful.
So this idea of
very touching.
You know, I might not be the only one with a dead mink tail on my driveway that everybody else is clamoring over. You should put that up on eBay.
I should. I'm gonna send it to you, and then you're gonna think that it's like a mobster message or something.
It could probably fit. You still have that banana holder I sent you?
Yes, I do. I still have it.
I don't even want to know what that means.
Banana holder. You can mail it in that.
Okay, banana holder. So people could imagine a lot of things.
We'll tell you that story. We'll tell you that story in another episode.
Yeah, few things here. Number one, we really need to wrap this episode up. That's the first thing. Number two, I never want to see a banana holder, nor do I want to know what a banana holder is for.
They're incredibly useful.
Number three,
you put a banana in your bag, it gets mushy, right?
John,
it gets gross. John, so you get a banana holder, you put the banana in it. And you know what the most incredible part about banana holders are? Like every single banana fits in this, like they've somehow engineered this simple banana holder such that every single banana fits in this banana holder.
Ren, listen, it's a very inclusive banana holder, okay?
Right, it doesn't matter if you're foreign, it doesn't matter if you're in a foreign country.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there, friends. I've heard enough. I've heard enough about the banana holder. And also, you know,
back to that story.
Our producer, whose name, I think her name is Amber. I'm going to need her to send me a thesaurus because John's got this word of the day thing. You know, sonder was the word of the day. And in episode 1, he said a word that I couldn't even refer back to look it up. It sounded like Acropolis or Emetopoulos. I don't know.
Apocrypha.
Oh, is that what it is? So fun fact, every time he gets shipped a V-neck, it comes with a word of the day. So that's why his vocabulary is so immensely profound.
Did you look up what apocryphal means?
No, I did not.
It's actually a really
important
word for the internet. It's, how do you spell it?
I don't know.
I can't remember even exactly how to spell it. CH. I had to look up how to pronounce it. I have this big problem where I read a lot and don't talk to a lot of other human beings. Even before this pandemic, like I just don't talk to a lot of other human beings. Yeah. So I legitimately don't know how to pronounce a lot of words.
That's all right.
It's funny when I give talks because I just pronounce words improperly all the time. But apocryphal.
But you're not Mexican. What's your excuse there?
Yeah, right. Apocryphal is a didactic. There's another word of the day. Is a didactic story, basically a lesson from a story, like a story that has a lot of lessons. Apocryphal is a didactic story or a story with a purpose where it's possibly not true, but the story is still valid, or like the lesson is still valid.
Like so Jonathan's 11 books.
Yeah, like Jonathan's 11 books. Nah, you can look those up. Those are real. Most of them are. There's a couple good ones. But
sweet Lord in heaven.
But the idea, like, how many people share all of these like just nonsense stories of wisdom from like business leaders or whatever, that you're kind of looking at those and you're like, who's fact checked these things? Right. So like those are all apocryphal stories. It's like, did you know that Bill Gates never took a day off in his career until he was 30 years old? It's like, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how, like has anybody asked Bill about this? Right.
Probably
but the idea is that he worked hard before he was 30, which is why what he has, you know, which is why he has what he has now. That's a valid idea.
Right.
But the story itself is probably complete nonsense.
Probably. So we're going to reel this thing in. Much like Jonathan Goodman's 11 books, PT Distinction works while you sleep. So you can schedule everything and relax in the knowledge that your clients are fully taken care of. And that's how John Goodman does it. That's how America does it. And that's how Canada does it. And that's our episode for this evening, for today, tonight, in the morning, whenever you're listening to that. Jonathan Goodman doesn't get to speak with a lot of humans, and this podcast will not improve the odds of that going into his near future. I've been Ren Jones, and I've been delighted and disgusted both to be a participant in this particular episode of the podcast. You know, signing off for my good friend Jonathan Goodman, who made me say that, and my very best friend in the whole wide world, the mink hustler herself, Squirrel Hat plug, Carolina Belmontes. Jonathan, do we have anything else that you need to bless us with before we sign off here?
I mean, I figure Amber will come on and tell you where you screwed up, but I can tell you a few places where you screwed up.
Thanks so much.
You didn't tell anybody where to get the podcast show notes. You didn't tell anybody to subscribe to the podcast.
You had one job, Ren. One job.
You didn't tell anybody to subscribe wherever they listen to podcasts. You didn't tell anybody.
Lord. This has been a total sham of a show today, guys. You know, it all rests on my shoulders. Literally, I fell asleep twice during Jonathan's explanation. So, show notes can be found at onlinetrainer.com/podcast, and that's a /, I think. I never knew / or /.
I don't think anybody's ever used a / I don't know why they exist.
Why is there a /?
I mean, I've written 11 books and I've never used one.
We didn't even know that you'd written 11 books. I'm so glad you shared that with us again, Jonathan. You know, if you've enjoyed this podcast, which I highly doubt it, feel free to subscribe and follow along with us. Use some kind of sadist or masochistic spirit out there. And Amber, anything you need to add to this podcast? I think we did a great job this time. Are you there?
I think we killed it.
I think she's falling asleep.
What
Amber,
do you think, Amber?
Amber? I'll let you off here. I don't want to use that kind of language on the podcast.
Well, Amber.
Oh, I'm afraid really now.
It's okay. We'll keep working on it.
What do we do? But
yeah.
For the record, though, the other / is for coding.
Coding.
Oh yeah, right there.
Like computer coding?
Yeah.
She makes too much sense. That's why we don't let her live on the air. So we'll see you guys next time. If there is a next time, who knows? Signing off for this amazing team.
Yeah.
I tickled myself. Signing off for this amazing team. I'm Ren Jones. Thank you for coming to episode 2 of the podcast, and work on that resiliency out there, guys. There's some legitimate truth to some of what Jonathan Goodman says. If you need more of it, there are 11 books apparently that you can get more information from. Thanks so much. End scene.